Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. It's another Raid Shadow Legends video. So this is another video carrying on in my Clan Boss series. Episode 4, this is going to be about speed control and counter-attack champions. I decided to do these two together because actually they play an important part of the same topic really. It's when to speed control, when to use counter-attack champions, and at which stage of the Clan Boss does it become more and more important to do so. There's quite a lot of information I'm going to cover through here. I guess it would be good to know at the end of the video with comments, does this format work for you? Is this going into too much kind of the theory craft, and would you rather see more gameplay and this sort of stuff? But yeah, let us know in the comments below. So let's get into this then. So firstly, what I wanted to touch on, because this is the 4th episode in the series, let's just kind of recap what episode 1 told us, and that is how to build a Clan Boss team. And two of the elements that I kind of touched upon in that video were around speed and around counter-attacking. But basically, to do more damage to the Clan Boss, we need balance. We need a balance of things which help us stay alive. And I've already done a video on the decrease attack. I've talked a lot about increasing your champion's defense in the defense stack. And then there's going to be a video coming up around ally protection buff, healers, and the importance of lifesteal gear, certainly in the earlier stages of Clan Boss. And then the balance to that is, obviously, yeah, you want to stay alive for a long time, but you also need to put in the damage. So I've done a video already, again, about poison stroke HP burn, and really how that's such an important part of your damage. And I guess the speed element, which I'm going to talk about today, is directly related to getting War Master and Giant Slayer procs, because the faster we go, the more often we attack, more often we're going to get those procs. They are a big source of our damage for Clan Boss. And then counter-attacking is also a big source of our damage for the Clan Boss if we've got that counter-attack champion. And there'll be other ones, which another video on decreased defense and weaken coming up in this series as well. So once we kind of understand the fundamentals, let's get into some speeds. And you'll find all of this information on my group Discord. So if you're already a member, there is a section around Clan Boss information. It goes into a bit more detail than this. It talks about accuracies you need and what have you. But all I've done here is just kind of drawn the speeds for the Clan Bosses, different Clan Boss levels out, so you can see what they are. And what I've done here is I've kind of grouped easy through to brutal as one area. And then we've got Nightmare and Ultimate Nightmare Clan Bosses as separate things. So ultimately, easy through to brutal, I would advise teams to push as much speed as you can. So you still want to be defensive. You still want things like defensive chests or HP chests, defensive gloves. But you do want to be wearing those speed boots. You want to be pushing for speed gear where you can, other than lifesteal. And the reason you do that is because actually what you want to do is you want to lap the boss. So the boss speed you've got here, easy 130 speed through to brutal 160. Ideally you want to go as many times as you can for every time the boss has one turn. I know that when I was hitting brutal and coming up through the ranks, I was pushing speeds around 200 when I was hitting hard. And what that allows you to do is to lay as many poisons as possible. It allows you to lay as many Giant Slayer or War Master procs as you can. And basically doing that, you're pushing your damage up every time. When you get to Nightmare or Ultimate Nightmare Clan Boss, the boss's attack is much stronger and the boss's defense is much higher, which actually means you need to start to consider your team composition a lot more. So you need to be able to stack more defense. You need to be able to put on buffs like increased defense. You need to make sure that you're decreasing the defense of the boss. And to be able to get to all of those different levels of team composition, actually you want to start thinking less about speed and more about the other stats that can really help you stay alive for longer. So we'll go into some of that as we get through this video, but that's I'd say that's the cut-off point for me. After brutal into Nightmare is when you start thinking differently about your team. So if we go on to the good speed champions in the game, well, I guess what I've done is I've picked out the main ones which I think would be relevant for this video. There's others which do a similar type of thing, but I think they don't do it as well. So I've picked out 3 rares, I picked out 3 epics, and I picked out 2 legendaries. So I'm just going to run through them in terms of what do I look for in a speed champ. And again, I'll say this here. So most of these champions I wouldn't use past Brutal. Maybe you'd use it in your early sort of stage Nightmare whilst you're still trying to build a team that can be speed tuned. Or you would use it if you don't have a counter-attack champion and therefore you still need to push as much speed as you can because you don't have the benefit of counter-attack. And I appreciate there's quite a lot of people out there that don't have a counter-attack champion. I think there should be more in the game if they're going to be so important. But anyway, let's just get on. So the 3 rares at the top then. So what I've looked at is who's the champion? Do they have a speed buff, as in an actual buff that they cast on somebody else to make them faster continuously? And do they have a turn meter increase, which is a 1 moment in time increase? Then do they bring out any other utility? Are they a champion that uses Giant Slayer or War Master? And then what's their overall rating? And where do I think they could play in terms of clan boss? There's a few rares in there. The standout rare which I'm going to talk through is Apothecary. It's probably one that most people know. The reason why he's so good is because he brings a big speed buff, 30%. He's got the turn meter increase as well. He brings a heal, which is really helpful for clan boss. He's got Giant Slayer, so he's the only one on this whole list that's got the ability to use Giant Slayer, which will give him more damage than the rest of the people on this list. And he can go right through to Ultimate Nightmare clan boss if you do not have a counter-attack champion. And in fact, some of the highest damage dealing teams that I've seen for Ultimate Nightmare actually contain him and Arbiter, who's right at the end of this list, as a kind of unified speed buff team, buffing your damage dealers. But that's kind of real high-end gear and real high-end kind of setup, but those two pair really well together. If I then look at the other 2 rares, they've both got actually some decent things about them. The top one there, Haruspex, I don't think he's quite new to the game, or he's just new on my radar, but for a rare, he actually brings quite a lot of utility. I think he was part of the Torment fusion. If you picked him up but didn't need to fuse him, or if you picked up a spare of him, I would say, and you're kind of, you know, anywhere below Brutal, I'd say he's worth investing some time in if you don't have Apothecary. He actually brings a speed aura. He's got poisons on his A1, although it's the weaker version. He's got a revive ally. He brings a speed buff. Actually, for me, I think he's a pretty good rare. Probably second place behind Apothecary in terms of rares for speed boosts, but pretty decent actually. Not bad champion. The other ones which I'd call out, so Golden Reaper in the Epic Tree is very good. She's got very similar skills to Apothecary. So she's got the 30% speed buff. She's got a 20% turn meter boost, which is one of the highest on here. And she does a decrease attack, which is quite useful as a spare decrease attack on your team. Her decrease attack is not, it doesn't cool down quick enough for her to be the only person that does it. So don't think, great, I can use her for 2 things here. She would be a backup decrease attack, not your main one. It doesn't cool down quick enough. But she's also got good base stats, and she can definitely hold her own through to Nightmare. You get High Katoon as a freebie, I think after 60 days maybe, or 30 days, I'm not sure. But again, not a bad one. If you don't have the Apothecary, she is decent. She's got Speed Aura as well. So that's one to call out, definitely for sort of early to mid-game speed champs. And then for me, the last 2 are the legendaries, obviously harder to book and all that type of stuff. Lissandra for me is actually more of an arena speed champ. But if you don't have Apothecary, then she can definitely fill this role well. She doesn't have enough other utility for me to be a sort of true high-end clan boss speed champ. But she is decent. She's decent. If you've got her and she's your kind of main speed freak, then definitely throw her in. And then you've got Arbiter, who actually doesn't have the speed buff. She's the only one on there without the speed buff. But she's got 2 ways of increasing turn meter. She's got a lot of other utility. Team revives, healing, weakens. She's able to reduce a turn off of the clan boss's buff. And she's definitely capable of kind of taking a team right through to Ultimate Nightmare. But as I said, for me, if you do not have counter-attack champions, then this is the kind of list to really go through. And potentially you're needing to use 2 of these champions to get to the same sort of level of damage that somebody with counter-attack does have. But if you've got a counter-attack champion, as soon as you get into Nightmare, I would say the speed guys come out of your team and you start looking at speed tuning, which is the kind of next part of this this video. So I'm just going to quickly talk through the different counter attackers and what they bring versus each other. So we've got Skullcrusher on the left. He's the only epic counter attacker in the game in terms of someone who can give the rest of your team counter attack. He's got Unkillable, he's got Allied Protection, he's an epic, so he's easier to book and actually doesn't need a lot of books. But on the downside, when he's got his Allied Protection on, he's unkillable for the first round of that. The second round, he's actually very exposed, and that will probably be the reason that he dies in your team comp. So that's his kind of downfall. And he puts on a heal reduction now and then onto the clan boss, which is a buff you do not want on the clan boss, which is kind of using up a room for poison, which is not ideal. You then got Valkyrie in the middle, so the first of the legendaries. She's got an insane base defense. I think it's the highest in the game. It's like 1700 or something, massively high. She does an all allied counter attack, including herself. She also places a hit with a counter attack, which Skullcrusher won't do. She puts up a massive shield. It's like insane shield, which will just help you get through the rounds longer and longer. And she's actually got a really insane base speed as well, which makes her very easy to speed tune and still stack that defense. She does have a couple of down points though, so she's harder to control with her turn meter. She's got a part of her kit increases her turn meter, which you need to be aware of the numbers so that she doesn't start going out of turn. She doesn't bring any other support utility, and obviously being a legendary, she's quite hard to book. And I think if you booked everything, it's about 11 books, which is a lot for a legendary. And then we got Marta on the right hand side, so she's probably the best legendary in the game still, even after all the new ones that have come out, I would say. She brings decreased defense, she brings increased defense for your team, she brings an all allied counter attack including herself, she brings a decreased attack, and she brings a defense aura. So she's just kind of like stacked with things that you want for the clan boss, all in one champion here. And probably the only downside that I could really pick out was that she does take quite a lot of books to get done, but actually to just book her ability, which does counter attack, is not that many. So even that's quite a harsh one to put in there. And there's definitely an argument to say 2 counter attack champions in the same lineup is really strong. If you was to do that, you would want ideally either Valk or Skullcrusher to be your second one to take the flak of the second hit from the clan boss. But we can go into that perhaps if people want a bit more detail on that. I can bring up a team that does it. I don't have it myself. I can show a team that's using it and show you how it works. But that's the counter attackers. So let's go into speed tuning then. So why would you speed tune versus just going all out speed? And as I said, some of the highest damage comps in the game, which aren't unkillable comps, are based on all out speed. So with speed tuning, you have a kind of ceiling that you can hit, in that at some point the clan boss is just going to start wiping your guys because you can't stop him hitting harder every turn. So with speed, you can actually outrun the clan boss and put more hits in. But what I'm trying to show here is actually how much speed you need to get to make that worthwhile. So the top area is showing 9. And again, this might be a bit kind of theory crafty, kind of maths intensive really, but I just wanted to show some numbers in terms of what this means here. So if you did a full cycle of the clan boss hits, by that I mean the first 2 AoEs and then the one where he does a stun, and you don't have a counter attacker, your team will hit 15 times. So each of your 5 champions get a hit on every turn. I'm assuming that everybody's got a cleanse here just to make it easy on numbers. So you will get 15 hits on the clan boss. If you did the same cycle with Skullcrusher as your counter attacker, then you'll hit 22 times versus that 15. So you instantly get another 7 hits from where we were with no counter attacker at all. And then if you were to do a full cycle of hits with either Valkyrie or Marta as your counter attacker, then you're going to get 25 hits. So you can kind of see how that scales in terms of more hits on the clan boss. Obviously more damage you're going to do. You're going to get more War Master or Giant Slayer procs. You've got more chance to lay poisons and all of that good stuff. So you're going to do more damage the more hits you do. So So what I've looked at here for the Nightmare Clan Boss, the Nightmare Clan Boss runs at 170 speed. So for you to match the number of hits you're doing with Skull Crusher just by pushing speed. So let's assume you've still got Skull Crusher in the lineup and you're just trying to push speed to do as many hits again. So this is breaking even. Then you would need to have all of your champs at on average about 204 speed. So we moved from being between 171 and 189 up to 204 to match our damage. If you're trying to do the same thing with Martyr or Valkyrie as your counter-attacker, you actually need an average speed of 226. So again, we're moving from 171 to 189 up to an average of 226. So you've got a close to 50 speed increase just to match your damage. That's not to do more damage, that's to match the damage you were doing. If you don't have a counter-attacker and you're trying to match the damage that you're doing on that kind of last equation there, that one where you had a counter-attacker with like a Martyr or a Valkyrie, you'd actually need an average speed of 282 on your team. So it shows how important counter-attack is in this game. And also, for me, there should be more counter-attack champions because it's so massive in Clan Boss damage. And I've done the same sort of thing here with Ultimate Nightmare. So I've run the same numbers. Basically, if you were trying to match your damage and you still kept Skull Crusher in, you need an average speed of 228. If you were trying to match your damage and you've still got your Martyr or Valkyrie in, you need an average speed of 253. And if you were trying to match your damage and you took your counter-attacker out, then you need an average speed across your team of 317, which is over 100 speed more than we'd be doing with speed tuning. So you can imagine, in terms of going back to my original scales there of balance, speed versus staying alive, all of the stats you're pumping into speed to try and get a speed comp, when you match that against the amount of defensive stats you can build to have a speed tune comp, you will stay alive a hell of a lot longer by doing speed tuning. So to get to that extra speed, it's just you just give up too many other stats, which is why speed tuning is so powerful and why it's so effective on Nightmare and Ultimate Nightmare. So let's just have a look in terms of how do you speed tune then. So what you want for Nightmare is you want your slowest champion, which is always going to be your counter attacker, to be ideally at 171 speed, but somewhere close to 171 and not less than 171. You want them to be your slowest champ, around 171 speed, but not slower than 171. You then want your poisoner to go next. You then want your decrease attack to go next. Those two are kind of interchangeable, doesn't really matter in terms of order. You then want your decrease defense and weaken guy, if you've got them on the same person. Definitely your decrease defense to be the second fastest. So less than 189 and less than the person who is going to be your cleanse champion. And by cleanse champion, I mean someone like a Steel Skull or a Bad L, someone that can cleanse the stun off of your person that's been stunned. If you've got that in your team, hopefully you have, because it's quite important. And that last person needs to be your fastest person, but slower than 189. I hope that's clear. It's really hard to know if this is coming across clear or not, because obviously I know what I'm doing. Hopefully, if this isn't coming across clear as well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delve into my team in just a second and show you my Ultimate Nightmare team. So I'm going to show you what I've done on this chart against my team. So for the Ultimate Nightmare speed tune, you want your slowest person in this instance to be at 191. Because the Clan Boss goes at 190, you want to go just a bit faster than the Clan Boss. So your counter-attacker ideally is around 191, 192. You would then have the same order of champions, so Poisoner, Decrease Attacker, Decrease Defense, and then you want your fastest person to be your Cleanser, who is the fastest but not any faster than 209. If they go faster than 209, they start to lap the Clan Boss and all of your ordering goes out of sync. There's just one other point to mention here, which is really important, but sometimes it's quite hard to grasp. So it's possible to run your Ultimate Nightmare team at the same speeds that you do your Nightmare team. What will happen is, if you run your Ultimate Nightmare team at 171 to 189, same as the Nightmare, which means you can stack more defense and that type of stuff if you don't have the ability to do it in Ultimate Nightmare speed tune. What you do is you run through the first wave of attacks from the clan boss, you wait until you get the first stun on your team member, and then you run it like normal. So after that, you can then put your counter attack up. Don't put counter attack up before this, but at that point you put counter attack up, and your team will run at the right speed for the whole of Ultimate Nightmare. So that's quite difficult to talk through without showing you in actual action, but I'm hoping some of that makes some sense. So let's just go into my actual team. What I'm going to do here is just show you what my clan boss team looks like, and try and bring it to life. So I've got my counter attacker, which is Skull Crusher, as my slowest person. So I'm running at Ultimate Nightmare speed, so I need to be 191 to 209. So my Skull Crusher is at 194. He is my slowest person. I then have my decrease attacker, who is Ultan. Ultan's a bit quicker than my counter attacker, but not much quicker. He's at 197. I've then got, for me, I've got a slightly different order because I've got a debuff extender. And these two can be interchangeable, doesn't really matter. So yeah, this guy's actually 196. Doesn't matter, as long as he's quicker than my counter attacker, him and Ultan could alternate in terms of speed. Doesn't really matter for me. I then have my decrease defense, and weaken guy, at 198. So he's my second fastest. Reason being is he puts the decreased defense and weaken on before the rest of my team hit, which means I get the added bonus of them hitting harder than if he'd gone after them. So he's my second fastest, 198. And then my fastest is the person who does my cleanse, and he's at 199. So what that means is he'll always go first, so that someone on my team will be stunned, normally my leader, which is Ultan. Bad El will then go. I can cleanse Bad El with his ability to, with his skill 2, removes all debuffs from all allies. So I cleanse him with Bad El, which means that Ultan always gets all of his hits, and my team never have a turn when they're not doing any damage. So I'm hoping that made sense. That's my order. Maybe I'll just show you that in action. So I think I need to do a bit more damage here, yeah. So not an auto. So you see here, Bad El goes first, throws up. That would be a cleanse if there was a stun. I then got my guy that places the decrease defense and weaken, goes second. I've then got my guy who can do decrease attack, but also puts up shields for me. I've then got my debuff extender. And then lastly, I've got my counter attacker who's going to put up counter attack just before the clan boss goes. Clan boss goes, everyone's got counter attack on. So everyone gets a full counter attack. And the reason why speed tuning is so effective is that everyone will get their second full counter attack as well. So you get, everyone just turns does their A1s at this stage. They're all with the same order that we just spoke about. All doing A1s. Clan boss goes again. Everybody's still got their counter attack up. So everyone gets maximum number of hits. And then for the final kind of wave, we're all just doing A1s again. A1's right the way through. Clan boss does his stun on my leader. And then Bad El's the first one to go. He cleanses the stun. And we're off again. And what I'm going to do now is actually I'm just going to run it on auto. And you'll see, because I've got it speed tuned properly, you'll see if I press auto now, that same turn of events is going to happen. Whether I'm, apart from them using their A1s all the time, which is what I'd love them to do, but they don't. Apart from that, that same turn of events will happen right the way through. So I'm just going to let it go through. See, everyone's got the full number of counterattacks still up. They're going to get full number of hits, which means I'm doing maximum damage. It's maximum number of hits on the boss that I can do. That's what I'm looking for. That's how you do damage. Stun's gone off. Bad El goes first, cleanses it off on auto, and then the team runs exactly like it would do if I was still controlling it. And that is why speed tuning is great. so I get maximum number of hits whilst being able to stack maximum defense on my team. But look, guys, I hope that's been helpful. If any of this detail is just like way over people's heads, please say so, because I'm trying to put it in a format that is possible to explain on a YouTube video, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. Also, please come to my Discord channel and just have a chat with me. There's a few mods in there as well which are really knowledgeable. So if you've got kind of additional questions over this or any of the videos so far, you know, feel free to come in and have a chat. But look, guys, I've been Hell Hades. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Catch you soon.